Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our afternoon session today, Fundamentals for a Big Enterprise. I've been really looking forward to this talk. This is going to be amazing, and it is my great pleasure to introduce Ulysses Galeano, who is going to be delivering this. He is our champ out of MasterCard, so everyone give a big round of applause for Ulysses.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for coming. Who came just because somebody said there was going to be magic here or something like that? Is that the only reason you came? So something like that a little bit, right? All right, so let's get started. Who am I? I am actually the chef and salt stack service owner for MasterCard. I've been at MasterCard for about a year, close to a year. Before then, I actually worked for, is that working? There we go. I actually work for the DoD, or more specifically, the United States Transportation Command. I've worked at other Fortune 500 companies as well as government and military. And I used to also be a professional magician for about 5 years, and that'll come into play a little bit later. So who's MasterCard, right? We're a small mom and pop store, right? No, we started back in 1966. We were actually we were founded by a member of banks as a cooperative. We've had a lot of organic growth here in the last about 9 years now. Back in 2010, we kind of shifted our mantra. We went from being a financial company to now being a tech company in the finance industry. And then back in 2006, we were publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange. So that's just a little bit about us. And actually, this is kind of wrong because we actually removed our name from the logo. It's just the two little circles there. All right. We are highly militarized as far as standards are concerned. Security is really big deal at MasterCard, and you'll see here in my talk. So for the rest of my talk, this is something that I wanted to do because this is something that when I first started with Chef or any open source platform, I wish someone would have told me, or when I Googled, something would have actually came up. Versus, so the technology part is really easy, right? There's a million ways to do a bash script or a recipe or what have you. It's what to do with them that we really have issues with. Real quick, I just want to go over my DevOps journey with Chef here. We've roughly started about a year or 2 years and a half with Chef. Started with Chef solo, as pretty much everyone here probably did or does or still does, right? Then about a year ago, we switched over to the Chef server model or Chef infra model now. And we have roughly about 300 cookbooks in our enterprise. And we stood Automate 2 about 6 months ago. We actually skipped Automate 1 and went straight to 2. So again, the technology part is the easy part. Applying in the enterprise is definitely not. You run into a lot of issues, a lot of silos where you have multiple groups. You have your operations group, your network group. You have your data center people that don't know things about configuration management, automating things, and selling it to them is kind of hard, right? There are key fundamentals, though. There are key things that you can do, and these are very simple fundamentals. This is not going to be a technical talk. This is going to be more of a what has helped me out in the last couple of years and what I think it'll help you in the future as well. So again, what I think we need a little bit is a little bit of magic. So that's actually what I'm going to do now, right? Hi. How you doing? Yes, you. The one lady who's saying no. Yeah, that one. Yeah. How you doing? What's your name? Heather, come up here for me. Yeah. Yay, Heather. We're from South. There we go. Heather, do you know what the Fortune 50 list is at all? So it's legendary people that everybody knows their names, right? You got celebrities. Oh, there you go. Thank you. You got celebrities. You got like Johnny Depp. You have Robert Downey Jr. He's big now right now. Angelina Jolie. Just very people that you know. Everybody like Tiger Woods. You have celebrities. You have all kind of people, right? What I want you to do is let me spread these out. These are brand new cars.
Yeah, they're way too new.
Yeah, I stole it from upstairs. So there you go. So grab one. Doesn't matter which one. Oh, here, let me. That one?
That's the one I want. Okay.
There you go.
As he looks at it, no.
No, I did not. You can choose another one if you want. But
No, I'm teasing.
Okay. You don't let me look at it for real, because it'll ruin it, you know.
Got it.
All right. Do you know who that person is? Like, have you heard of the name? And,
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, there you go. Yeah, you can keep it. Blank card. Nothing special about it, right? So, I want you to visualize their face if you can.
Okay.
What they look like, okay? Kind of just start thinking about them a little bit. If they're a singer, picture them singing. If they're a movie star, picture them doing movie stuff, right?
Okay.
Just kind of keep picturing them a little bit. Okay, I'm actually going to do something really cool here. I'm going to make a mess also. All right, so you think of them. I
Thinking.
think they have a lot of hair. This is actually what I do when a chef cookbook is converging in kitchen. I just spend my time doing this. So, okay, that's fine. That's fine. What? Okay, keep picturing them.
Yes.
Okay, is this somebody you like?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Are they male or a female?
Ma'am.
Male. Okay. For the first time ever, can you say their name out loud?
You want me to say their name out loud?
Yeah.
It's Bruce Lee.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bruce Lee.
That's pretty good.
You can keep that,
Thank you.
and I'll take that from you.
Okay. Would you like this card back?
Oh, sure, you can keep it. It's up to you. So, what you actually just saw were about 5 or 6 different tricks, actually, not one. I know magician never reveals a secret. I'm going to go into a little bit of that. It was psychology. It was a little bit NLP. It was a little forceful. It was a little magic, mischief stuff going on. But it was all things that I could easily done standalone, and it would have been awesome. But together, you get that, right? Had I just been able to cut a face out of a piece of paper, that would have been cool by itself. It's the fact that she never mentioned who it was, right? The same principles. We have the same principles when we want to bring something to the enterprise, right? Now, again, this is going to be a little bit boring, especially if you're doing it right. If you're bored, that means you're already doing these things, and that's fantastic, okay? What those are documentation, communication, governance, representation, and community, okay? Each one is an integral part of like the whole pie, if you will. Okay, if you do one or the other, great, but it's really when you do all of them together that you're able to do a lot of change in your environment. The chef success people always tell me, hey, you came in and you did a lot of stuff, and I'm like, I'm just doing my job, right? I'm just doing these things. I'm not doing anything special. I just have all these things set correctly, I think. So we'll start right off the bat. So with documentation, there are actually 2 documentation scenarios that you can run into. One is you just came to your enterprise and nothing's there, right? You've been hired to bring chef into the enterprise. There's no documentation whatsoever. Nobody knows what's going on. That's one scenario. The second one is you've arrived at a company and there's too much documentation. Everything's been documented for you, right? There's actually positives and negatives in both of those scenarios. The positives for the already established documentation scenario is that most of your work is probably already done. And of course, because of that, there's less ramp-up time for your team to do it. The negatives, and you'll see there's a lot of negatives with that. It could be too much documentation or tribal knowledge, right? You have too many silos, especially when teams start using, for example, chef differently in each team. You'll have different standards, different governance. The information can also get old or siloed. It could get stale. And then because of that, there might not be enough trust in the actual platform. You might actually lose trust from your internal product teams, right? And that's actually something I want to hit on. For us at MasterCard, Chef is an internal product. So it's actually something that I am selling to the internal people or the internal application teams. So, and I treat it as such, right? So what do you do if the documentation is already there, okay? First of all, you got to pull it all together. So whatever you use, whether it be Confluence or a whole bunch of Word documents, whatever, what have you. I hope it's not Word documents, but I've seen worse. Put it all together, right? Put it in one central place. Get it all together. Even if it's wrong, even if it's out of date, just put it all together. Then go through it. Go through the entire thing. Go through every single document that you can find, and then rewrite it, right? This sounds very simple. It's not. It's going to take you some time, right? It could take you months, honestly, but this is something that you're just going to have to keep doing. Once you do that, you rewrite it again because you've missed stuff, I promise, right? And then have someone else go through it. This could be a team member, preferably. It should be someone that has no idea about Chef, like nothing whatsoever, because then they'll tell you things that you didn't realize that people don't know, okay? Then again, rewrite it again. And once you've rewritten it and it's almost perfect, again, you're gonna have to do it every month. You'll get something like this because my friend made this. And it says, reviewed all the Chef documentation. And I won't read that one, but there you go. All right. So what happens in the next scenario, this is where you got your stuff, you just got there, there's nothing there, there's no documentation whatsoever. There's actually a positive note to this. But you have the opportunity to get it all right from the beginning. You have the opportunity to set all your guidance and all your standards and all your governance all together, right? The negative part of that, we're gonna get this clicker to work. Nope. It does take additional time and effort, so your ramp up will probably be much longer than if you had all that stuff already in there. So where to start your documentation? So again, this is the things that I would have loved to have heard 2-3 years ago. I came into a place and there was nothing there because I was brought in to bring Chef in, okay? So I started with documenting the architecture. So at bigger enterprises, it's not like a startup. You have different teams, right, different things. Sometimes you'll have different DMZs. Most of us are not in the cloud. We're still on-prem. So there's going to be issues with that. You want to document it all. Where does your Chef servers run, right? And also, what connectivity do you have to those servers? What can reach out to them, or where you can reach out to? Because if there's a node or there's a server somewhere out there and you're trying to configure it, and your Chef server doesn't have connectivity with it, you're not going to get it, right? Address all that. All the IP addresses, get those all down. Users, like the users that can log into the server itself as well as the management console, right? So both of those, right? Make sure you write that down. File systems, any kind of other companyism. So for example, DMZs just kind of pops out at me. So DMZ is probably the biggest issue that we'll probably have. Also, operational documentation, because enterprises usually have a ops team. It's not usually us. We don't usually have access to these servers themselves, right? Maybe some do, but for the most part, the companies I've worked on, you don't have access to those servers. It's not you actually, hitting keys on the keyboard, right? It's somebody else. So because of that, you want to make sure you have operational documentation for those people. Things like how to log on to the servers, because they might not know. Common issues that you've run into while installing it or just running it, and how to fix them. And also solutions, and then also where to get help. Do they reach out to you? Do they put in a ticket with Chef? So make sure you call that out. Documents for the community. Again, Chef for us is an internal product. So we are trying to build a community internally, just much like Chef has built a community around here. And I don't know if you caught the Nell's speech today about how great our community is. So that's actually what we're trying to build inside as well, right? And again, have tutorials, how to get started, where they can run in, like where they can go to if they need any help. Would it be you? Would it be a different team? Make sure you say that. And the last one is make it visual, right? The more diagrams you have, the better. If I can look at it one diagram and it explains to me your entire infrastructure, that'll save me not just a lot of time reading, but then also it just looks better, right? You'll be able to understand it better. This is actually our Confluence space. This is ours. That's what we use. Now, you'll look at the versions and you'll be like, those versions don't exist. You're right, because my security team wouldn't let me put what versions we actually use. So there you go. Again, security is throughout this whole presentation. But as you can see, we have an overview of what Chef is. We have news that we put out. We have common outages that we put in. So anytime there's a user base, we have outages. They can go right to the Confluence base and see that there's an issue going on, right, and that we're fixing it. Outage history. This is more for like management, right? They want to know when was the last time you went down, what issues happened. Over here, you'll just have your infrastructure operations. These are my documents for my operations team. Business documentation. I recommend that you put all your licenses in one place, like all your licenses, keys, files, your contracts with Chef. You want to know, hopefully you know when your Chef contract expires. I recommend putting that down. And then also like developing and testing cookbooks. This is where our community goes and gets all the helps on how to build a cookbook at MasterCard. This is not how do you build a regular cookbook, right? Because how we build cookbooks are completely different. So yeah, so we have all that. And then right on the front, also we have the most common things. So this is actually how to get started, how to get to our prod and dev supermarkets, as well as our servers and automate, and then the firewalls that are needed for each one. The second important fundamental is communication. So what to use? There you go. So right off the bat, I recommend using a real-time chat. All right, anything will do. Slack, Flowdoc, HipChat, Microsoft Teams. I think we're going to start using that. It gets something going so you can get direct feedback, not only to your team, but also the community that you're trying to build. We have an internal team channel, and this is particularly for your team, because Chef is a product that we give to our teams. We want to make sure that everything is product ready. So for example, when we start doing Habitat, we're already start talking about Habitat, but we don't want the community to know about Habitat yet till it's 100% ready to be used at MasterCard, right? And then once that happens, then we'll reach out to the community through a community channel that we also have. And this is the community channel that everybody uses at MasterCard that uses Chef. This is where they can reach out to us, to the internal Chef team, or as well they can reach out to other people that are doing Chef. This is extremely helpful because it keeps you from always having to be on the chat, and you can focus on other stuff, right? I'll talk more about that in a minute. Forums, use forums. We recommend using, well, you can use whatever you want, Discourse or PHP, BB. There's a lot of forums out there, but use them. This is more for blog style type of things. I think that's what we use it more for. And then distributions list. Distribution list is very important for us. We actually have 2 distribution lists. One where the community reaches out to us, the internal Chef team, and then another one where we reach out and notify the community. So if a cookbook goes missing or something happens or Chef server goes down or there's an outage or what have you, that's what we do, right? Wikis. So as you saw, we use Confluence, but you can do PMWiki, XWiki, whatever you want. This is where we put, again, you already saw my outages and my known issues. So that is a communication channel. People do go to it. It's not just for documenting where things are. Use it as something to communicate to the industry. You saw where our news feed was right there, right on the front. This is where we notify people of what's coming up next and cool things like that. Governance. This is where actually I'll spend most of my time on. So again, the technology part is really easy. It's how to do it. How to do it at an enterprise level. It's completely different. There are going to be standards that I'll recommend. This is something that I've built myself in the last couple of years. So the positive part about Chef is Chef is great and it lets you configure everything how you want it. The negative part of that is that Chef is great and it lets you configure everything how you want it, but it also lets somebody else configure how they want it too, right? So best practices. Have common principles. Let your community know how to use Chef in your environment, right? These are things like standard installation paths, things like standard port numbers to use, what ports are allowed, what ports are not allowed, sizes of logical volume groups, things like that. OS-specific settings for your infrastructure and hosting environment or teams. They'll have their own standards. By the way, you should not be coming up with most of these. You'll communicate it out to your community, but the people who should really be building these should be the teams that are running all this stuff already. So you'll go to your operations team, your network teams, and you ask them, what can we touch, what can we not touch, right? What do your volume groups look like? What do your binary package names look like? And then tell that to your community. And then also formatting and coding style. So using Food Critic. So if you don't know where to start right off the bat, start using Food Critic. Most of that catches about 99% of all your issues, as well as linting and things like that. We use Rubocop. And if you're not using Kitchen, start using Kitchen. It'll save a lot of time, tons of time, converging, and you're able to test everything before it even touches stage or prod. You should be ready actually through Kitchen. And your kitchen environment should probably look as close as possible to the prod environment that you're trying to put stuff in. So, cookbook naming. This is actually from our Confluence as well. We've standardized this. So all of our applications, or all of our cookbooks, start off with MC, right? They're prefixed with MC. So that way we know this is a MasterCard specific cookbook. We didn't just get it from somewhere. We use underscores. We mentioned that many, many times. Also no abbreviations. We call it out. So instead of MC TC9, it's MC Tomcat 9 or what have you. And the name cookbook should also not be in the cookbook. So we should never see a MC Tomcat cookbook. It should just say MC Tomcat. Okay. We have a minimum files needed in our cookbook. So all of our cookbooks have these specific files, and they have to. Otherwise, the pipeline to get them to the chef servers will fail. We have a README, and in each README, we also parse everything. It has to have the name of the cookbook, the description of what the cookbook does, as well as what platforms it supports, whether it be Windows, AIX, or Linux. The recipes that are included right off the bat, because we want to know, what recipe or does what. Sometimes people will name their recipes kind of weird, so we want to know right off the bat by looking at the README, oh, this recipe configures this, or this recipe installs this, right? As well as, again, the distribution list is very important to us, so we also keep a maintainers list on there, so we can reach out to them. And then, of course, you got your licenses and things like that. We also have our Burks file. Our Burks file just points to our internal supermarket. And then our kitchen YAML. Our kitchen YAML is very important to us because we actually parse it. So as we upload a cookbook, we actually do all of our testing and our pipelines through our kitchen file. And because of that, it needs to be specific. It needs to be, the platform needs to be specific. It needs to be driver, OS, and then version. So Docker, Red Hat, 7, or what have you. And then that way we can test against that specific one. If that's missing, the cookbook isn't going to go anywhere. The pipeline will automatically fail. The metadata, and much like our README, our metadata is pretty extensive. We look for a lot of different things. Again, pretty much all the same things, actually. Maintainer email, support, the only thing different is source URL, and then, of course, the chef version that it depends on, right? Changelog, each company is going to have their own. I just go with that, describe what changes there are and make sure that the latest number is always at the top. I don't want to be scrolling down forever, to find what you just did. And then test. All of our cookbooks have to be at least 70% tested. They have to pass testing. And then we also, because we let it's an interest source, not an open source, an interest source. All of our cookbooks are interest source. That means internally anyone can go in and edit a cookbook and PR a change. It doesn't have to be that specific team to do it. Cookbook ownership. This is very important to us as well. A group or a team must be responsible for the cookbook. Not a singular person cannot be responsible for the cookbook, because if something happens to that person and this cookbook is used widely and it brings something down, we need somebody to help us out immediately. So one person is not allowed to just own a cookbook. It has to be a whole team, and they have to know exactly what's going on with it. They also must have a distribution list set up because if something goes wrong, we need to be able to contact them pretty quickly. So they have to have a distribution list set up for the cookbook itself. And then, although they are not responsible for maintaining the cookbook or keeping it up to date as much as possible, they are ultimately responsible for merging their PR. So if someone went in and edited their cookbook, although they don't have to do it, they are responsible for merging their PR. So hopefully, although we do have automatic testing, if something does happen, they are responsible for that. And then this is the most important one that I've realized in the last 4 years. The internal chef team should not own all the cookbooks. All right, that's get your teams to own their cookbooks. Get the application teams that own those applications today to own the cookbooks that configures it for them. Otherwise, you're just going to run into many issues and silos and bottlenecks. Trust me. So representation. What exactly does that mean? Again, because Chef internally is a product that we're trying to sell, we have to be an ambassador. We're technically an ambassador for Chef internally. We are SMEs for the platform. That means we know what the company is doing. We know what they're representing, because what they're representing also is kind of representing us a little bit. That means we also have to know where they're going in the future. So, if everything is going to shift over to Habitat, then we need to know everything's going to shift over to Habitat, and that's where we're going to go, right? We just always keep yourself up to date. So that means going to events like ChefConf, for example, and know what things are happening at that company that might affect the platform, and ultimately it'll affect you as well. Community. This one's a really important one as well, and this is how you build a community, right? You have to give the opportunity to commit back to the platform. You have to be flexible enough to let others say, this is how we want to use it, at MasterCard or whatever enterprise you're from, right? This is how we should be using it, because you're not going to have all the answers. You might have most of them, but not all of them. Especially when it comes to using that platform in your company. Let them have a say how the platform is used, and then have a way for them to give feedback and feature requests. So, for example, someone comes up to me and says like, "Oh, we've been hearing about Automate, a lot. We should probably get Automate." And this way it'll help you too when you're going up to your manager or vice president or whoever you need to talk to and say, "Hey, we should really get Automate going, and this is why." There's 30 application teams that are asking for it right now, right? That's a much better conversation than, "Hey, it's really cool," right? So. So again, like we rely on the open source community that Chef has built. Internally, people will start relying on that community as well. So have internal events. This helps the not only give out information, but also training on how to use Chef in your organization. Sit down with the application teams that want nothing to do with Chef and say, "Hey, listen, I'm going to show you how to do it in your application. This is how you deploy, Splunk or whatever," and that's how you'll sell it better for them. Because if you start talking to them about Apache and to the monitoring team, and they don't care about Apache, then they're not going to care about Chef either. So talk to them how it benefits them. So putting it all together, having all set up all these fundamentals, it'll make it easier to support the platform, because once you set up the community, you'll have community help, right? It won't just be that little small Chef team. You'll have a higher percentage of adoption. Having all the communication, all the documentation, people will start using Chef more and more just on their own, and then they'll go up to their manager and say, "Hey, listen, I've been doing this Chef stuff, and I think we should start doing that." And then your adoption will just start happening automatically without you having to do anything or talk to anyone. That means it will increase the productivity of your team, right? Because you don't have to support it as much. If all your issues are documented and how to fix them, and they have a way to reach out to the Chef team or to Chef themselves, then your specific team doesn't have to focus on it. That means you can focus directly on the platform itself, on all the cutting edge stuff. When we're doing like policy files and we're doing the Habitat POC and all this other stuff, it really helped us by having built that community where we could step away for a couple of days and just focus just directly on that. It'll also make it really easy to talk to security teams, because how many times have you gone to them and like, "Hey, I want to do this," and like, "Well, no," and then you ask why, and they're like, "Well, we've always done it this way," right? But if you have a community built around it saying, "I have 40 application teams that want to do this, this is documented this way, Chef only touches these different things, only these DMZs," then it's harder for them to say no. And then it's easier for you to ask them to give you an answer. And most of the time, I've been extremely lucky to get a lot of things passed through. There's a couple applications that we wanted to use that were not allowed, and I got it passed in about a week and a half, just because I had everything documented. And it was for the security team. So I said, when the security team started using Inspec and started using Chef to do things, I would say, well, how bad do you want to be supported? I need this application, right? So because of all this, because you setting up Chef the way you want to set it up, it'll help you bring other applications in. So if you're not doing Jenkins, you want to do Jenkins. If you want to do Kubernetes or what have you, having set this up first and then just following that same model will help you out with all your applications as well. This is not Chef specific. These are just good practices to do, and this is stuff that I've been doing for like 3 or 4 years now at this point, and I've been very successful at it. So thank you. So yeah, I'll take any questions. Kind of went through that pretty fast, actually. So.
What percentage are your cookbooks apps versus infrastructure?
So how many cookbooks are applications versus infrastructure at this point? Infrastructure, we have about 100 maybe, and the rest of them are just applications. Yeah. So. Yes.
How much overlap is there in documentation between like your README files in your source control and your Confluence pages or whatever? Is there a lot of copy pasting back and forth?
The README files in the cookbooks themselves?
Yeah.
There isn't any because those README files are specific to the cookbook. So do you have like a specific scenario?
I'm just curious, in your Confluence, do you have like a list of your cookbooks and what they do? Can someone browse your Confluence to understand your cookbooks, or do they have to go to your source control?
They would have to go to our source control, but we do have what is called a cookbook registry where they can look at all of our cookbooks. Although we do point them to the supermarket because everything's just right there, right? And then they can view the README right in the supermarket. So we have both. They can go to the registry to get a full list, or they can just go to the supermarket and look up the cookbook name, and they'll see the README right there. In the documentation, however, we do have a list of common cookbooks, like things that are shared cookbooks. So, for example, like secrets and base level things that you want to do. We do have those cookbooks, and we do specifically call out, like, if you want to do this, use this cookbook instead. Yeah. Anybody else? Oh, yep. So we're using an internal application that we built, although I think we're starting to definitely look at HashiCorp Vault. Yeah. Anybody else? Yep.
Would you be able to make that slide deck available? Because that framework is probably missing a few companies I know.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how yet, but
Yeah, we'll do that.
you guys will do that? There you go, Chef will do that. So somehow, right? Yeah. Well, so the version number are already taken out. So yeah, I can share this all day long. Yep. All right. Anybody else? Cool. All right. Thank you. And if you do think of something, I'll be around. Just stop me when you see me in the hallway or whatever. So, thank you.